Hello, welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to be covering web application security testing, but the theoretical part. So I'll be explaining web application security fundamentals, the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, testing tools, and the methodology before we get hands-on with DVWA and Burp Suite in upcoming lessons. So let's dive in. Let's start with web application security testing. What is web application security testing? Web application security testing identifies vulnerabilities in websites and web applications before attackers exploit them. It is essential for protecting user data, preventing breaches, and maintaining trust. The goal is to find and fix security flaws in web applications. You can think of it as a health checkup for website security. Just like you visit a doctor to catch health problems early, security testing catches vulnerabilities before they become breaches. And the main essence is that the attacker only needs to find one vulnerability. And before they find that, you need to find the vulnerability first. Why does web application testing matter? Let's consider the problem first. Web applications are the number one attack vector. Most attacks today target websites and web applications. 70% of attacks target the application layer, not the network or infrastructure. Data breaches cost millions in damages, lawsuits, and loss of customer trust. And vulnerable web applications expose sensitive user data like passwords, credit cards, and personal information. Now let's consider the solution. The solution is proactive security testing before deployment, identifying vulnerabilities early in the development cycle when they are cheap to fix, and fixing the issues before attackers find them and exploit them, and conducting regular testing and security audits. Security is not a one-time thing, it is continuous. Now let's learn the OWASP top 10, which is the most critical web application vulnerabilities. Which are the most critical web application vulnerabilities? OWASP stands for Open Web Application Security Project. What they do is that they maintain the top 10 list of critical security risks, and this is the 2021 edition. So the first one is broken access control, and this is when users can access data or functions they shouldn't be able to. Example includes viewing the other user's account by simply changing the user ID in the URL. Number 2 is cryptographic failures, and this has to do with sensitive data getting exposed due to weak or missing encryption. Example of this is passwords stored in plain text instead of hashed, or transmitting data over HTTP instead of HTTPS. Number 3 is injection, and here malicious code gets injected into the application. Example is SQL injection done to steal entire database content, or command injection to run system commands. Number 4 is insecure design, and this means that security flaws sometimes exist in the application architecture itself. Example of this is missing rate limiting on login attempts, which allows unlimited password guessing. Number 5 is security misconfiguration. This has to do with insecure default settings or improper configurations. Example of this is default admin credentials like admin or admin password that is still active on production systems. Number 6 is vulnerable and outdated components, and this has to do with using libraries or frameworks with known vulnerabilities. Example of this is a WordPress plugin with an unpatched security exploit that is publicly known. Number 7 is identification and authentication failures. This has to do with weak authentication mechanisms. Example of this includes no multi-factor authentication or allowing password-only access to sensitive accounts. Number 8 is software and data integrity failures, and this has to do with code and data that can be tampered with. Example of this is unsigned software updates or insecure CI/CD pipelines that allow malicious code injection. Number 9 is security logging and monitoring failures, and this has to do with insufficient logging to detect attacks. Example of this is having no alerts when multiple failed login attempts occur, and that means that an attack such as brute force attacks can go unnoticed. Number 10, which is the last one, is the server-side request forgery (SSRF), and for these, server gets tricked into making malicious requests. Example of this is accessing internal services through the web application that shouldn't be publicly accessible. These are the 10 most critical web vulnerabilities, and every web security tester must know these vulnerabilities. Now let's compare manual testing to automated testing. Let's start with manual testing. Manual testing means a human tester manually explores the application. It is great for testing business logic flaws that tools cannot understand. It finds complex vulnerabilities and require human reasoning. It is time-consuming but very thorough, and it is best for authentication bypass, authorization issues, and complex workflows. Now let's come to automated testing. Automated testing uses tools to scan for known vulnerabilities. It is fast and it provides comprehensive coverage of common issues. It finds standard security issues quickly, but it misses business logic flaws that require understanding context. Also, it is best for SQL injection, XSS, and configuration issues. Now let's look at the best approach. The best approach combines both methods, that is, use automation for scanning common vulnerabilities, manually test critical functions and business logics, also use automation for broad coverage and manual testing for depth. Professional testers use both. Now let me introduce you to Burp Suite, which is the industry standard tool. The question is, what is Burp Suite? Burp Suite is a professional web application security testing platform. It is developed by Portswigger and it is available in Community Edition, which is free, and Professional Edition, which is paid, and it is the most widely used tool by penetration testers worldwide. Let's consider some of its key features. The first one is proxy for intercepting HTTP and HTTPS traffic. The second one is scanner that is used for automated vulnerability detection, but this is in the professional edition only. The third one is repeater for manually modifying and resending requests. The next one is intruder for automating attacks and forcing inputs. The next one is decoder for encoding and decoding data. We also have comparer that is used for comparing different responses side by side. And lastly, we have an extensive extension marketplace with hundreds of plugins. Burp Suite is best for professional penetration testing engagements, in-depth manual testing of complex applications, complex attack scenarios requiring advanced features, and enterprise security assessments with budget or professional edition. Now let me introduce OWASP ZAP, which is the free alternative to Burp Suite. What is OWASP ZAP? OWASP ZAP stands for Z Attack Proxy, and it was created by the OWASP Foundation. It is 100% free and open source. There is no paid version at all. It is cross-platform, that is, it can run on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it is actively maintained by the security community worldwide. Now let's consider its key features. The first one is intercepting proxy, which is just like Burp Suite. It also has automated scanner that is completely free, unlike Burp, which charges for scanning. It has active and passive scanning modes for different testing approaches. It has Fuzzer for testing input validation, Spider for automatically crawling applications. It also has full API support for integrating into automated testing pipelines and scripting capabilities for custom automation. OWASP ZAP is best for learning web application security without spending money, automated CI/CD security testing in development pipelines, budget-conscious organizations that need professional tools, and open source security projects and community testing. Now let's compare Burp Suite and OWASP ZAP directly. For Burp Suite, one of the pros is it is a professional polished user interface, it has powerful scanner in professional edition, it has extensive documentation and tutorials, it has a larger user community for support, and it is regularly updated. Also, new features are added regularly. For the cons, scanner requires paid version, which is expensive, and cost can add up for teams, which is a steeper learning curve for beginners. Now to the cost. For Burp Suite, it has a free version for community edition with limited features, and on the other side, there is this $449 per year for professional edition. So this is best for professional pen testers, enterprises with budget, and complex security assessments. Now to OWASP ZAP. This is completely free forever, and it has automated scanner, which included no cost. It is open source, so you can modify it. It is also great for CI/CD integration, and it has an active community contributing features. Then the cons are less polished user interface, slower performance on larger applications, and it has fewer advanced features compared to Burp Suite Pro. For the cost, it is free forever. There are no paid tiers. Also, it is best for students learning security, automation in development, open source projects, and anyone on a budget. Here is my recommendation. Start with OWASP ZAP to learn fundamentals without paying. Both tools are valuable in professional security work, but many professional pen testers use both depending on the scenario and the client's budget. Here is the complete testing methodology professionals use. Phase 1 is information gathering, and this is where you map application structure and all functionality, you identify entry points and parameters that accept input, you discover hidden files and directories, and you enumerate technologies and versions being used. Phase 2 is vulnerability assessment, and this is where you run automated scanning with tools, manually test critical functions that tools miss. This is where you test authentication and authorization thoroughly, and where you check for all OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. Phase 3 is exploitation, and this is where you attempt to exploit discovered vulnerabilities safely. You prove impact with proof of concept demonstrations, you document exact exploit steps and payloads used, and you assess severity and business risk. Then the last phase, which is phase 4, is reporting. This is where you document all findings with screenshots and evidence. You provide clear remediation recommendations for developers. You assign severity ratings such as critical, high, medium, or low. And you create both executive summary for management and technical details for developers. Let me now break down the detailed testing workflow. Step 1 is reconnaissance. And here we are browsing the application manually to understand it. We map all pages, forms, and input fields. We identify user roles and their permissions, and we note interesting parameters and API endpoints while we do all this. The second step is the configuration review. And here we check for default credentials on admin panels. We review error messages for information disclosure like stack traces. We test for security headers like content security policy, HSTS, and X-frame options. And we examine robots.txt and sitemap.xml for hidden parts. Step 3 is authentication testing. And this is where we test for weak password policies. We check for brute force protection mechanisms. We test password reset functionality for account takeover, and we verify session management security and proper timeouts. Step 4 is authorization testing. And this is where we test vertical privilege escalation from user to admin. We test horizontal privilege escalation between same level users. We check direct object references by manipulating IDs, and we verify that role-based access controls are properly enforced. The step 5 is input validation. And this is where we test for SQL injection in all input fields. We test for cross-site scripting, both reflected DOM and stored. We test for command injection, and we test for path traversal vulnerabilities. Now, here are critical best practices for web application testing. The first one is always get permission. That is, only test applications you own or have written authorization to test. Get written authorization for client testing, not just verbal permission. Respect scope limitations defined in the contract, and never test production systems without explicit approval. Testing can crash systems, so you need to be aware of that. The second one is testing environment, and here you must use isolated testing environments when possible, not production. You must avoid disrupting live services that customers are using. You must back up data before performing destructive testing, and you must document all actions you take during testing. The next one is ethical considerations, and this has to do with you protecting discovered vulnerabilities. That is, you must not share them publicly. Also, you must report findings responsibly to the organizations first. You must not exploit vulnerabilities beyond proof of concept demonstrations, and you must maintain confidentiality of client data you access during testing. And the last one is documentation, and this is where you screenshot every finding as evidence. You record all request and response pairs that demonstrate vulnerabilities. You document exact reproduction steps so developers can recreate issues, and you maintain detailed testing notes throughout the engagement. We have come to the end of this lesson, so let me recap the key takeaways. The first one is web application testing identifies vulnerabilities before attackers exploit them. The second one is OWASP Top 10 covers critical web vulnerabilities you must know. The third one is manual testing finds business logic flaws, and automated testing finds common issues. The next one is Burp Suite is the professional standard with powerful features. And the next one is OWASP ZAP is free and excellent for learning and automation. Next is both tools are valuable in different scenarios and budgets. And next we have following structured methodologies such as reconnaissance, assessment, exploitation, and reporting. Also, always get written permission before testing any application. And in the next lesson, we are going to get hands-on with DVWA, Burp Suite, and OWASP ZAP. So that's all for this lesson. And before you go, here is the challenge question for you. What are the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities according to 2021 edition? I repeat, what are the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities according to the 2021 edition? That's all for this lesson. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, please do that now. Also, do not forget to like, share, and comment. I'll be looking forward to get the answer to the question in the comments. Thank you so much and see you in the next lesson.